I want to take a moment to thank each of you that come to this little blog and spend your time here. And I've gotten a number of emails and even letters in the mail from you giving me some very wonderful compliments. And I can't thank you enough. And so I just want to tell you, I read every comment, positive and negative. I read every letter, every email, you name it. And I just want to say thank you. I'm amazed that you would take time to thank this knucklehead for doing this, but I sure thank you. And so today, I want to pick up where we left off last time and talk to you about loving your spouse in the in-between. Now, I've gotten a little bit of criticism that sometimes I present it like, man, it was just this little journey. You know, I blew up my life. I saw Rick, and things just were difficult, but it was great. Oh, hell no. Let me just tell you, there was some dark moments. I'll never forget the time that Samantha kicked me out one day after I had had an emergency appendectomy. She was like, you can go stay at a hotel. And later on that night, about midnight, she texted me and said, I forgot that you had stitches and everything. You can come home if you want. And I was like, I'll stay at the hotel. And I did. I came back the next day after a long talk with Rick and groveled at what an idiot I was. I'll never forget the day that Samantha took a pickaxe to a plywood dollhouse that my daughter was just tired of playing with. And Samantha took out all of her anger on the dollhouse. Neighbors were peeking over the wall going, what's going on? It was some very tough times. But, and this is kind of slanted towards the unfaithful, but there's a lot of good stuff in here for the betrayed. I want to tell you that if you can't love your spouse in the in-between, then you're going to have problems. I had to learn to love Samantha while she was a mess, while she was angry, while she was taking out her anger on me, while she was doing some things that Rick tells betrayed spouses not to do. She was transmitting her pain. She was making me the focus of it all. She was fixating on me and shaming. I mean, there was a lot of difficult times. But oh, by the way, who caused all of this? This guy. So some of the struggles that a lot of couples have is that the unfaithful spouse just gets so mad and so angry because your spouse is not acting the way that you think that they should act. But I got to tell you, you're not in control. And you got to stop trying to be in control of their responses. You can't control the way that they are going to respond. You can come to an EMS weekend, you can be on the website, you can go to counseling, and do all the things that you should be doing, and I hope that you're doing. But that's not going to just put them in a little box. And so in between when it happens and in between when it happens and when you start to gain some momentum could be a year, 2, 3 years sometimes. Typically 1 to 2. But in that in-between stage, you've got to love your spouse through it. To this day, Samantha tells me one of the ways that I won her back was the fact that I took her anger and her pain and her rage, even at sometimes. I embraced it. And for the most part, you know, the statistics are all over the board, but for the most part, I didn't get that defensive and I didn't try and control her response. Once I got help from Rick, once I got help from this mentor, Richard Hogue, once we started to do some things, then I stopped being such a control freak and quite frankly such a dumbass and stopped trying to control her. I loved her in the in-between. There was a lot of battles. There was some horrible, excruciating days, and you know them just as well as I do. But if you're unfaithful, love your spouse through them. Don't pull back and retreat your love from them when they're having a difficult time. Love them in the in-between. Now, if you are a betrayed, this is something that Samantha did a couple of times. You may consider doing something like this. When you're having a good day, You may even consider looking at your unfaithful spouse during this good day and saying, yeah, those couple days or yesterday or whatever, that was a difficult day, wasn't it? And thank God for sarcasm, right? And thank God for the ability to kind of disconnect. But you may think about saying to them, I know I'm having some very bad, some very difficult days, but I can see that you're trying to love me through them, and that means a lot. And if you'll keep loving me through these difficult times, we're going to get to the other side. You may have to say, look, if you can't love me when I'm a mess, we're going to have problems. You may have to say something like, look, I need you to love me and support me in between where we were and where we're trying to get. If you can only love me when I'm great or when I'm controlled, then maybe you're not loving me. Maybe you only love the fact that you're controlling me. Because there's going to be some bad days. There's going to be some Holiday Inn Express nights. There's going to be some times where you get the pickaxe. There's going to be some times where you slam a few doors, where you have to take a long drive. There's going to be some difficult times, but it's the in-between. And I promise you, unfaithful, if you will love your spouse in between, if you'll woo them back with love as they're going through the most difficult time of their life, I promise you, one day they'll look you in the eye like Samantha did and say, you won me back a lot of different ways, but none more importantly than being willing to do what it took to change, and number two, being a safe place for me to be angry and for me to process and not retreating in shame, retreating in anger, and retreating in defensiveness. Samantha said something to me one day that was just a kick in the teeth. She said, I'm not your slave, I'm your spouse. If you can't love me when I'm having a difficult day, then maybe you don't love me at all. Yeah, that was a tough moment. And it's true. If you only love your spouse when they're doing what you want, you got problems. Love them while they're having a difficult time. Now, if you're betrayed, I'm not saying that to you, because at some level there's a point, unfaithful, where you have to put some action to your love. And you have to stop being ambivalent and make a decision to give it a shot and do some hard recovery work. But I promise you this principle. If you will love your spouse, the betrayed spouse, through this difficult time, it'll not just change your spouse who's betrayed, it'll change you. Because as I loved Samantha when she was pushing me away, it absolutely transformed me altogether. I'll never forget understanding how I changed as I stopped trying to control her and just loved her in the in-between stage.